Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I am Julia, and today we are talking about something that every single person on the planet has in common. Something you have talked about with a stranger, with a coworker, with your grandma, and probably with yourself while looking out the window. We're talking about the weather. Now I know what you might be thinking. Julia, the weather? Really? Is that not the most boring topic in the world? And I get it. I totally get it. But here is the thing. The weather is actually way more fascinating than we give it credit for. And beyond the science of it, the way we talk about weather says a lot about who we are as people. So stick with me here. By the end of this episode, I promise you will never look at a cloudy sky the same way again. Let us start from the very beginning. What actually is weather? Weather is basically what is happening in the air around us right now. Is it hot or cold? Wet or dry? Windy or calm? That is weather. It is the short-term stuff, the day-to-day, hour-to-hour conditions of the atmosphere. Now a lot of people mix up weather and climate, so let me clear that up real quick. Climate is the bigger picture. Climate is what you expect. Weather is what you get. So if you live in a place that is usually warm and sunny, that is your climate. But if one random Tuesday in July it pours rain all day, that is the weather. Think of it this way. Climate is your personality. Weather is your mood on any given day. Okay, so now that we have that straight, let us talk about why we are so obsessed with the weather. Humans have been paying attention to the weather for as long as we have existed. And that makes total sense. Our ancestors needed to know if a storm was coming so they could find shelter. They needed to know if it was going to be a dry season so they could plan their crops. Weather was not just small talk back then. It was survival. And honestly, in a lot of ways, that is still true today. Farmers still depend heavily on the weather. Construction workers plan their schedules around it. Pilots need to understand it. Emergency teams respond to it. The weather shapes entire industries, entire economies. But for most of us in our everyday lives, the relationship with weather has shifted. It has become something we feel, something we experience, something that shapes our mood and our day in ways big and small. Have you ever noticed how a sunny morning just makes everything feel more possible? Like you wake up, the light is coming through the curtains, it is warm and bright, and something in you just lifts. And then on the flip side, a gray, rainy day can make the couch feel magnetic. Like your body just says, no, we are staying in, we are getting snacks, we are watching something cozy. That is not just in your head. Well, it is in your head, but it is real. There is actual science behind how weather affects our mood. Sunlight helps our bodies produce serotonin, which is a chemical in the brain that helps us feel calm and happy. When there is less sunlight, like in the winter or on very cloudy days, serotonin levels can drop. That is part of why some people experience something called seasonal affective disorder, sometimes called SAD, which is a type of depression that tends to happen in the darker, colder months. Cold temperatures can also affect how energetic we feel. Our bodies use energy to stay warm, which can leave us feeling more tired. And when it is very hot, our bodies work overtime to cool down, which can also drain us. So the next time someone tells you the weather is messing with their mood, believe them. That is a real thing. Now let us talk about something I find really interesting, which is how we use weather as a conversation starter. In a lot of cultures, especially in places like the United Kingdom, talking about the weather is basically a national pastime. You walk into a shop and the person at the counter says, "Terrible out there today, is it not?" And you say, "Oh, I know, absolutely miserable." And just like that, you have connected with a total stranger. Why do we do this? Why is weather such a go-to topic? A few reasons. First, it is universal. Everyone experiences the weather. No matter who you are, where you come from, what you believe, you walked outside today. You felt what it felt like. So weather gives us common ground instantly. Second, it is safe. You are not going to offend anyone by saying it is a bit chilly today. You are not stepping into politics or religion or anything sensitive. It is a low-risk way to open a conversation and signal that you are friendly and open to talking. Third, and this is the one I think is most interesting, talking about the weather is really about connection. It is a way of saying, "Hey, I see you." We are both here in this moment, experiencing the same world. That is actually kind of beautiful when you think about it. But here is where it gets a little deeper. Some people use weather talk as a way to avoid real conversation. Like if you ask someone how they are doing and they only ever talk about the weather, you might start to wonder what they are not saying. In that sense, weather chat can be a wall as much as it is a bridge. All right, let me take you through some of the most interesting weather phenomena out there, because nature is honestly wild, and I want to appreciate that for a minute. Let us start with thunderstorms. A thunderstorm happens when warm, moist air rises quickly into the atmosphere and collides with colder air above. This creates huge storm clouds called cumulonimbus clouds, which can reach up to 60,000 feet into the sky. Inside these clouds, ice particles and water droplets crash into each other, building up electrical charge. When that charge gets big enough, it releases as lightning. And the thunder you hear is the sound of air rapidly expanding and then contracting around the lightning bolt. Because light travels faster than sound, you see the lightning first and hear the thunder a few seconds later. The bigger the gap, the farther away the storm is. Next up, let us talk about snow. Snow forms when water vapor in clouds freezes into tiny ice crystals. As those crystals fall through the cloud, they stick together and become snowflakes. Here is something cool. Every snowflake is technically unique because the exact path each crystal takes through different temperatures and humidity levels creates a one-of-a-kind shape. No two are exactly alike. Scientists have studied this extensively, and while some snowflakes look very similar, at the molecular level they are always slightly different. Snow can be dry and powdery or wet and heavy depending on the temperature. Dry snow falls in very cold conditions and is great for skiing. Wet snow falls when temperatures are closer to freezing and is better for making snowballs and snowmen. Now let us talk about wind. Wind is simply air moving from one place to another. It happens because of differences in air pressure. When the sun heats up the earth unevenly, some areas of air become warmer and lighter and rise, while cooler, heavier air moves in to fill the gap. That movement is wind. Wind comes in all kinds of intensities. A gentle breeze is lovely on a warm day. A strong gust can knock you off your feet. And then there are the really extreme winds, like those in a hurricane or tornado, which can cause serious destruction. Speaking of which, let us talk about hurricanes for a second. A hurricane is a massive rotating storm system that forms over warm ocean water. As warm, moist air rises from the ocean surface, it leaves an area of lower pressure below. More air rushes in to fill that gap, gets warmed up, rises, and the cycle continues. As the Earth rotates, it causes the whole system to spin. In the northern hemisphere, hurricanes spin counterclockwise. In the southern hemisphere, they spin clockwise. The center of a hurricane is called the eye, and this is one of those facts that still amazes me. The eye of a hurricane is actually calm. It is quiet, there are clear skies, and the winds are light. But all around the eye, in what is called the eye wall, the winds are the strongest and the rain is the heaviest. People who have been inside a hurricane and experienced the eye passing over them describe this eerie stillness in the middle of total chaos. Okay, let us take a step back from the extreme stuff and talk about something we all deal with every single day. Rain. Rain is such a fundamental part of life on this planet. The water cycle, which is the process by which water evaporates from the surface of the earth, rises into the atmosphere, forms clouds, and falls back down as precipitation, is what keeps our planet livable. Without it, we would not have fresh water. We would not have rivers or lakes. Plants and animals would not survive. Rain can feel very different depending on the context. A light drizzle on a spring morning can feel fresh and clean. A heavy downpour in the middle of summer can be refreshing and exciting. But when you are not prepared for it, when you are wearing your good shoes and your umbrella is at home, rain is the enemy. There is a word in Japanese, amafuri, which refers to the sound of rain falling. In Portuguese, there is a beautiful word, petrichor, though actually that word originally comes from Greek and was coined by scientists to describe the smell of rain on dry earth. That earthy, fresh smell after rain on a dry day. If you have never noticed it, pay attention next time. It is one of the best smells in the world. Different cultures have very different relationships with rain. In Ireland, where it rains quite a lot, there is a kind of acceptance and even fondness for it. People go out in the rain without much fuss. In Southern California, where it rarely rains, even a light drizzle can cause traffic jams and a kind of collective panic. Our relationship with rain is shaped by what we are used to. Now let us talk about something that affects more and more people every year: extreme weather. Extreme weather events, things like heat waves, severe droughts, record-breaking floods, and stronger hurricanes, have become more frequent and more intense over the past few decades. Scientists have linked much of this to climate change, which is the long-term shift in global temperatures and weather patterns driven largely by human activities, like burning fossil fuels and deforestation. When we put more carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, they trap heat from the sun that would otherwise escape into space. This causes the average temperature of the planet to rise. And even small changes in average temperature can have big effects on weather patterns. Warmer air holds more moisture, which means heavier rainfall and more intense storms. Warmer oceans fuel stronger hurricanes. Melting ice and snow changes regional climates. Droughts become longer and more severe in some areas. Now, this is not meant to be a downer moment in our episode, but I think it is important to talk about because the weather is not just a backdrop to our lives. It is something we are actively shaping with the choices we make as a society. And understanding that is the first step toward making different choices. On a more hopeful note, there is incredible work being done by scientists, engineers, communities, and everyday people to understand and respond to these changes. Better weather prediction technology, renewable energy, sustainable farming, smarter city planning. The conversation is happening and people are taking action. Let us shift gears a little bit and talk about weather in culture and in our everyday language. Have you ever noticed how many common phrases and expressions are based on the weather? We use weather metaphors all the time without even thinking about it. When something is going well, we say we are on cloud nine. When life is difficult, we say we are under the weather. When someone is being cold toward us, we use the exact word cold to describe their attitude. When things get tense, we say there is a storm brewing. When something ends suddenly and brings relief, we say it blew over. Weather is woven into the way we talk about emotions and situations because weather is one of the most immediate, physical experiences we have. It is one of the oldest ways humans have made sense of the world. And our language carries that history. Weather also plays a huge role in art, music, and storytelling. Think about how many songs are about rain. Somewhere Over the Rainbow, Rhythm of the Rain, November Rain, Purple Rain. Rain is a symbol of sadness, of longing, of change, of cleansing and renewal. In movies and literature, the weather is often used to set the mood. Dark, stormy nights signal danger or mystery. Bright, sunny days suggest happiness or innocence, or sometimes false security before something goes wrong. Fog creates confusion and tension. Snow can mean isolation or peace, depending on the story. Directors and writers use weather as a tool to help us feel things before anything has even happened. It is an emotional shortcut that we all respond to instinctively. One of my favorite examples is how often horror movies use thunderstorms. The moment you hear that thunder and see those flashes of lightning, your body knows something scary is about to happen. Your heart rate goes up. You get tense. The weather has already told you what to feel before any jump scare or dramatic scene. Okay, I want to spend a little time talking about the people who study and forecast the weather, because being a meteorologist is honestly one of the most challenging and underappreciated jobs out there. Meteorologists use a combination of satellites, weather balloons, radar, ocean buoys, ground-level weather stations, and supercomputers to track and model what is happening in the atmosphere. The models they run are some of the most complex computer simulations that exist. And here is the tricky thing about weather forecasting. The atmosphere is what scientists call a chaotic system. This means that very small changes in initial conditions can lead to very different outcomes over time. You might have heard the phrase the butterfly effect, the idea that a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil could set off a tornado in Texas. That is actually a metaphor coined by mathematician and meteorologist Edward Lorenz to describe the sensitivity of chaotic systems like the atmosphere. This is why short-term forecasts, like tomorrow's weather, are usually pretty accurate. But long-range forecasts, like what will the weather be like in 3 weeks, are much harder and less reliable. Despite this challenge, weather forecasting has gotten dramatically better over the past few decades thanks to better data collection and faster computers. A 5-day forecast today is about as accurate as a 1-day forecast was 30 years ago. That is a remarkable improvement. And accurate weather forecasts save lives. They give emergency services time to prepare for hurricanes and tornadoes. They help airlines avoid dangerous conditions. They help farmers make smart decisions. They help event organizers, city planners, and millions of ordinary people just decide what to wear in the morning. So the next time a weather forecast is not quite right, instead of complaining about meteorologists, maybe give them a little appreciation for the genuinely hard work they do. Let me tell you about a few of the most extreme weather places on Earth. because I think it is wild to realize just how different the weather experience is depending on where you live. The wettest place on Earth is generally considered to be Masanram, a village in northeastern India. It receives around 11,700 millimeters of rain per year. To put that in perspective, London, which everyone thinks of as a rainy city, gets about 600 millimeters per year. Masanram gets nearly 20 times more rain than London. During the monsoon season, the rain is so constant that locals have reportedly developed special covers for their baskets to protect themselves while they work outdoors. The driest place on Earth is the Atacama Desert in South America. Some parts of the Atacama have never recorded any rainfall in human history. The landscape looks almost like another planet, and yet life still finds a way there. Certain plants and microorganisms have adapted to survive with almost no water at all. The hottest temperature ever recorded on Earth was in Furnace Creek, California, in 1913 at 56.7 degrees Celsius. That is 134 degrees Fahrenheit. Genuinely hard to imagine. At that temperature, the air itself feels like an oven, and basic survival becomes a serious concern. The coldest temperature ever recorded was at the Soviet research station Vostok in Antarctica at minus 89.2 degrees Celsius in 1983. That is minus 128.6 degrees Fahrenheit. At that temperature, exposed skin freezes in seconds. The air is so cold it can shatter metal. And then there is the wind. The strongest winds ever recorded outside of a tornado were in a tropical cyclone near Barrow Island in Australia in 1996, with gusts reaching 408 kilometers per hour. That is 254 miles per hour. Our planet is extraordinary, and the weather it produces is endlessly dramatic. Let me come back to something a little more everyday before we wrap up, which is the idea of weather preferences. Everyone has their favorite weather, and I find it so interesting that it is one of those things that is deeply personal and tied to our memories, our culture, and our identity. Some people are absolute summer people. They come alive in the heat. They want to be outside, in the water, soaking up every bit of sun. For them, winter feels like a kind of hibernation they have to survive until the warmth comes back. Some people are winter people. They love the cozy feeling of being inside when it is cold outside. They love snow, scarves, hot drinks, and the stillness that winter brings. The cold does not bother them. It invigorates them. Some people love rain. The sound of it on the roof is the best sleeping soundtrack in the world. There is even a name for people who love rain. They are called pluviophiles, from the Latin for rain, pluvia. Pluviophiles find rain peaceful and calming and deeply comforting. And some people love that in-between weather, the soft days. A mild, overcast, quiet day where it is not too hot, not too cold, not raining, not sunny, just gentle and still. Your weather preference is yours, and it is often shaped by where you grew up, by strong memories tied to certain types of weather, by how your body feels in heat versus cold, and sometimes just by your personality. There is also something worth noticing about how your relationship with weather can change over time. A lot of people who grew up in cold climates and moved somewhere warm find that after a few years, they actually miss the snow. Not because they forgot how annoying it could be, but because there was something in it that they did not realize was part of who they were. The seasons were marking time for them, and without that rhythm, something fell off. Weather is time. Each season is a chapter. And even if you intellectually live in a place without much seasonal change, your body and your memory are tuned to expect it. Okay, as we near the end of the episode, I want to leave you with a few thoughts. Weather is everywhere, and yet we barely pay attention to it most of the time. We check the forecast on our phone, decide whether to bring a jacket, and move on. But there is this whole incredible world happening above us and around us every single day. Massive systems of air and water moving across the globe. Energy from the sun being absorbed and redistributed. The atmosphere in a constant state of motion. When you step outside today, I want you to actually notice the weather. Not just register it, but notice it. What does the air feel like on your skin? What does the light look like? Can you smell anything? Is there wind, and if so, where does it seem to be coming from? What do the clouds look like? Take 30 seconds and just be in the weather. You might be surprised by how grounding it is, how it brings you right into the present moment. And the next time you find yourself talking about the weather with someone, maybe a stranger in a shop or a neighbor outside or a coworker at the beginning of a meeting, know that it is not just filler. It is a small, ancient human ritual, a way of acknowledging that we are both here alive on this beautiful and sometimes wild planet, feeling the same air on our faces. That is actually pretty wonderful. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I am Julia. This has been a great episode to make, and I will see you next time. Stay curious, and whatever the weather is doing where you're right now, I hope it is treating you well.